We're ready for the jury. All right, Mr. Mulrow. Mr. McCain, before the lunch break, I had asked you some questions about shootings, and you began explaining to the jury about security. Tell us, again, what is the function that security plays in the Gangster Disciples? To secure the organization. And in what ways does security help secure the organization? Objection, Your Honor. He does not know or have any evidence regarding this organization on trial. He's got stuff from 1995. Irrelevant. Overruled. Protecting certain members that's in a higher up authority. Protecting each other. Protecting drug activities. Protecting each other. Mr. McCain, the judge overruled the objection. But just to be clear, as far as you know, in your continued involvement in the gang, has that security function remained the same throughout the decades up until today? Yes, it has. Does security have any responsibilities with respect to the leaders in the gang? You have to protect the leaders. Why is that important? Those are the ones that's leading the organization in the direction and the vision that Mr. Hoover wants it to go into. So you want to protect them to keep them alive. When you were a governor in Chicago, did you have security responsible for protecting you? Yes, I did. Objection, relevant, overruled. Yes, sir, I did. And would anyone in the gang be able to provide that security, or were there only certain people, certain individuals? How did you choose who would be security? Certain individuals have, I would say, that talent that you can pretty much notice. I mean, you can notice an individual. If he's timid or smart, you might want to use him for collecting money, keeping money. So someone who is more timid and intellectual would not be security, are you telling us? Not that, but, well, say soft. If he's soft, you didn't want him being with security. You know, if he's one of the dudes that talk a lot, you don't think that he's strong enough, you wouldn't put him on security. And the people that you did choose for security, would those people carry firearms in order to carry out their security function? Yes, that was mandatory. Mandatory? Yes, it was. So you, as a governor, you told us did have security? Correct. What about board members? Would board members also have security? Yes. Their security over, besides Mr. Hoover, their security is top priority, besides the chairman. And was security responsible only for guarding the physical safety of the leaders, or would security also respond to disrespect to their reputation? Objection, Your Honor. Leading. Overruled. Security was there to protect the organization. So if someone was disrespecting the organization or disrespecting them for what they represent, then, they would do what they have to do to protect that. And would that be people inside the organization disrespecting the leaders, or would it also include people outside the organization? It includes anyone. If someone disrespected a leader, would that leader need to order security to respond, or would security know to do it automatically? It really depends on the guy that you have doing security. Some guys know. Some guys from security team already know what to do. Some guys, you have to tell them what to do. And if a member of the security responded properly to disrespect, would that improve their reputation or their standing within the gang? Of course. If a member of security failed to address the disrespect, would that hurt their reputation in the gang? To some degree. And you said that you, as governor, had security, and you said that the board members had security. Would other leaders also have security? All POAs supposed to have security. Including First C? All COAs. All POAs. Anybody that has a position are supposed to have security. Now, before lunch, when you were describing security to us, you also said the phrase UFOs, and then we took our break. So tell us, again, what are the UFOs in the Gangster Disciples? They have, I guess you would say, special security guys that they would do the dirty work for the organization. You have an organization. You have security, but the UFO security is like a family inside of a family. They're the ones that go out and do the things that need to be done to keep the organization upstanding. So, you might tell one guy on the UFO team to go do something. He's not supposed to go back and tell anybody else unless he's told to. So they can all be in the security team and doing certain things for the organization without each other knowing. Why would they keep it secretive like that? To keep people mouth, keep people from talking. If I go tell A to go kill someone, and then A come back and telling B and C he's breaking that breach. You know what I mean? So they probably have to get rid of A for talking, for letting B and C know what's going on. And I'll just ask you, Mr. McCain, to spell it out crystal clear. When you say the UFOs are doing the dirty work, that means violence? Yes. Does that include murder? Yes. I'm going to play another call for you now, Mr. McCain. So I'll ask you to take your binder back and open to tab number 715. I'll give you a moment to do that, and then we'll play the audio 715. Miss Etienne, would you play that, please? So, Mr. McCain, first off, are you one of those people on this call? No, I'm not. Do you recognize the voices of the people on this call? No, I do not. Based on your personal experience in the Gangster Disciples, do you have some understanding of what they're talking about on this call? I believe so. Object, Your Honor. Improper opinion testimony under Rule 701. Rephrase your question, Mr. Mulrow. Mr. McCain, in the course of being a leader in the Gangster Disciples, have you learned things and developed knowledge and familiarity that help you to understand what they're talking about on this call? I believe so. Are there specific terms or phrases on this call that you recognize because of having been a Gangster Disciple? Yes. What are some of those terms or phrases? First C position. Is that where the person that Mobley says, I need your blessing on the movement, on that first C position? Correct. Now, based on your personal experience, what would it mean to want blessing on a first C position? Sounds like he's trying to get that position. As the conversation continues there, Mr. McCain, are there any other terms that you recognize from your experience as a Gangster Disciple? UFO. Is that the same UFO that you talked about doing the dirty work before? Objection. He wasn't part of this call. He doesn't know if it's the same UFO as back in the 90s, and no speeches, Miss Dunn. Overruled. Yeah, I believe so. I believe he is the same UFO. Is there anything in this conversation so far, Mr. McCain, that makes it sound like they're using the term UFO differently from what you explained the term UFO to me? No. Ms. Etienne, let's continue the call, please. Ms. Etienne, pause it there, please. So, Mr. McCain, we saw at the top of page 3 the phrase UFO again, did we not? Yes, sir. And I'll just ask you again, based on your personal experience in the context of the conversation, does it sound to you like they're using that phrase the same way you understand it? Yes, sir. And lines 3 and 4, Mobley says, G-Ball doing a lot of standing down. Is standing down a phrase that you're familiar with in the game? Yes, it is. What is standing down? Well, from reading the conversation, it seems like that the guys over there at Stone Mountain, they want to retaliate for KO's death. And the guy's not letting them do it. So they're mad about that. So they already get with this other guy, because he's, from what I read, it's like that he's going to let them do what they have to do. And he say he's about that. That's what he do. So I'm about that. I handle that. That's what I do. So these guys they can stay over there at the neighborhood where they at, still be over there. But when I need them to put in a business, I think this is improper, Mr. Mulrow, under Hawkins. He can't testify to what the conversation means. You can ask him about terminology. You can ask him about slang. You can ask him about code words. But I think Hawkins applies not only to case agents, but to anybody testifying to a lay opinion. Yes, Your Honor. And, Mr. McCain, I asked you a question that was probably a little too open-ended. So let me ask you a little more specifically. When the speaker says, I'm good in that particular field, let me ask you, specifically based on your personal experience, was there a particular field that UFOs operated in? Security. Let's move from that call for a moment. And while we're talking about security and talking about UFOs, Mr. McCain, let me ask you, does the phrase enforcement mean anything in the Gangster Disciples? Security. Are security and enforcement similar? Correct. Does enforcement have duties that are different at all from security? Not really. It's part of security. I want to go back from the structure of the gang generally to some of the specific things that you did or that you were a part of. You've told us a lot about Larry Hoover's reputation in the gang. Mr. McCain, was there ever a time that you met Larry Hoover? Yes.